Let's see how we can use ChatGPT to improve our productivity in Excel. The first thing is that we can ask it generic questions, like how to create a pivot table from a data set in Excel. What is the best way to find and remove duplicates in Excel? Or how can I separate text in a cell using a delimiter character in Excel? Or how can I name a dynamic range in Excel? Sometimes it will return formulas that it will also explain, and if not, we can ask it to explain each parameter, or it will return a procedure. Then also, if we know about a topic but don't know how to use Excel, for example, to perform statistical analysis, we can ask, how can I calculate the correlation coefficient of two variables in Excel? Or how do I create a moving average to smooth data fluctuations in Excel? Or can you help me detect outliers in a data set using standard deviation or interquartile range in Excel? Obviously, we know about statistics, we know what we want, but we don't know how to do it in Excel. So we ask ChatGPT. Here are some examples that I have done lately. For example, to concatenate many cells, you can use the ampersand, which is quite easy, but it's tedious to enter all the cell codes. So I asked it to build an Excel formula that concatenates the first 200 cells of a row using the ampersand. Don't abbreviate it on the screen, print the entire formula. Why did I mention this? Because the first time I asked, it abbreviated it on the screen. And then it wrote these 3 dots that I don't really need. So if I keep looking down here, I told it to not abbreviate it at all, okay? Don't abbreviate it on the screen. And then it gave me the entire formula that I can come here, copy and paste into Excel. Look, this is very long if I hadn't had to build it myself. Another thing, a formula to count the number of times a string appears within another in Excel in the same cell, okay? And now I'm going to come here, I'm going to use Ctrl plus F inside, okay? The formula to add the times that a string appears inside another one in Excel, and then it tells me to use COUNTIF, but COUNTIF doesn't work, because what you do in a row or in a column where there are many cells, it counts how many of them contain the word, and I wanted just a one cell, that there is a long text. For example, how many times did the word horse appear in that text that was in the same cell, not in different cells? So I asked it again, okay? So I told it that I wanted it to be in the same cell. And then if you count, it made me this formula with replace and length, which is the length of the cell minus the length of replace. In the cell, the word I want to search for is matched by the length of the word I want to search for. Explain why this formula works and has its length, but it works then with this. And I write this formula, and it finds me the number of times that a word appears inside the text that there is in a single cell, and already I have a last one that makes a formula of Excel that adds all the boxes of a row that have a certain color. Then I am going to put here with Ctrl plus F color to find that search. Okay? And it tells me that unfortunately Excel doesn't have a formula that does that, but it can be done with a Visual Basic macro, and it tells me how I have to open the editor to use this function that I'm going to copy into a macro. Well, the problem is that Excel by default doesn't have the developer mode activated. The developer tab doesn't appear in the menu. I could also ask GPT about this, but I'm saying it here. In File, Options, Customize ribbon, make sure it's activated. Then, up here in Developer, we would go to Visual Basic. We would come here. I've already done it before, but with the right mouse button, we tell it to create a module. Okay? A module, and in the module, we paste with Ctrl plus V the function. Now it's called something like sum. If I put here equal sum, look, it shows sum by color. Here, I would have to write the parameters, and that would be the range, and it would sum by color, the range, and the color. Let's see. The formula should be here. Okay? Here it tells me the range and the color, and it would return the sum by color. As you can see, it's quite easy to ask Excel to help us to make a procedure to create a formula, or even to create a macro to do a specific thing. We could have also told Excel to give us a macro that would go through all the rows of a spreadsheet, apply a function, and do something else. And Excel will do it for us. Sometimes it won't do it right. I've had instances where I asked for a formula to do something, and it didn't do it right. There, you can either continue iterating, keep saying it's not working, it's giving me this error, or it's not working, change this, and you might arrive at the solution. Or, as happened to me in some cases, I have seen which function I was using in the formula, and there I have extracted what I wanted to do, which would have otherwise taken me more time to search and try out. With that, I conclude this video where I have explained various ways to use ChatGPT to increase our productivity with Excel.